Floss, welcome back to the channel. I am reviewing The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Now this book was sent to me for review by Walker Books and I am so thankful because I loved this book. Absolutely adored this book. It's one of my favourite reads of 2017. It's a story of Star and she is in a community, a low socioeconomic black community. She attends school though in a more upwardly mobile community. It's a predominantly white school and her parents, especially her mother, want her to get out of the world that she's in because they see education being a path to her creating a better life for herself. And she's already caught in this sort of jarring juxtaposition of having friends at both places and not really sure of her identity. The book starts off when she attends a party with an old friend, or she runs into an old friend called Khalil, and he offers to drive her home because the party kind of breaks up through a bit of violence and whatnot. And they're driving home and having a chat and catching up, and she sort of remembers that she used to maybe have a crush on Khalil when they are pulled over by a police officer who shoots Khalil and he dies. And she is traumatized and it's tragic. It's raw and visceral, and that moment is quite shocking in that we hear about this story, this type of story all the time on the news, yet to be in that car, to feel that immediate sense of panic and danger from someone who should represent, or from a role that should be represented as the protection, is just incredibly jarring and tragic immediately. And his death that she witnesses firsthand is appropriately violent and appropriately handled, in that it shouldn't be fade to black. We don't see it. We feel it. We feel the dirt and the grime and the blood that she picks up as she holds his hand, holds his body while he passes away, and you feel everything. And the book could really easily have gotten bogged down in the grief of that. But what it does beautifully is move on and face what happens next. I mean, we hear, sadly and tragically, we hear about these stories all the time in the news. And often what happens in the days afterwards as the news cycle moves on or quietens down is what we don't hear about. And so this is what we experience with Star, is it's what it's like to be in that community immediately after that news comes out, and immediately once the framing of how this boy died is changed to he was violent, he was a thug, he was a criminal, he was reaching for something, when you know as a reader and as Star that none of that was true, in that he may have been falling in with a bad crowd, but circumstance played a huge part of that. And does a bad crowd mean that you get pulled over and shot? No, it doesn't. And so as a reader, you go on this journey with Star about her frustration with the system, about her balancing that with this life that she lives in this white neighborhood, or not lives there, but attends school in this white neighborhood, where they see that differently. They hear the narrative differently. And so the book itself explores that so well, putting you right there with Star as she's going through this incredibly frustrating and graphically grief-ridden journey, and you go on the highs and the lows and the moments of absolute helplessness where she feels like nothing can be done to change this system, and that the louder she shouts, no one's listening, to then having that heard by people and action being taken, and from friends who she thought weren't there for her, who are, and then vice versa with friends that she thought were more on her side that aren't. You go through this massive experience with them. And I think for me, I will never be able to understand Star's journey 100% because I am white. But it's absolutely, this is what reading is about for me. It is taking me to places and people and journeys and experiences that I don't know, that I haven't experienced, and showing me those feelings and giving me even just a taste of what it's like to have that world, or to be in that situation, whether it's dystopian Hunger Games, or romantically falling in love in Paris, or the racial injustice of a black community being painted a certain way when we know it's not true. This is what that book does so well. Yet it stays positive when it could really turn into an angry screed. It's still angry and has every right to be angry, and the book makes you angry and makes you realize what it must be like for a 16-year-old or 17-year-old who is constantly questioning their own identity, as we all did at that age, and we still do, but then to have society question your identity as well. Like, what must that be like? Like, you already need help enough to then have that every day, have you be questioned through nothing you've done but the colour of your skin. What it also does though is have a cast of characters around Star that are real and feel earned and give colour and light and movement to the story in her siblings and her parents and her boyfriend and her friends from the white school and her friends from the black community and this wider community that feels absolutely real. And all of this is in this beautiful book that feels like very much an American book about the Black Lives Matter movement, but very much a global understanding of differences and what it's like to be a different person than the traditional norm, and how that feels when you come up against money and socioeconomics, but also in policing and judgment and justice and what that is like every day. So I think Angie Thomas did the most amazing job, and a book that really could have been divisive, whereas I find this book to be incredibly unifying. Obviously these issues had to be handled so well, but her writing was so well done, and that I laughed, I cried, I felt, I could smell the barbecues, I could feel the pool parties, the heat of the summer, the darkness during the protests and the danger of the smoke. I could feel it all. So the story, which is remarkable, and the plot and the issues all remarkably handled. Angie Thomas is a writer. She is absolutely an author, and that's for a debut novelist to be so confident in her storytelling skills and her ability to create characters that you connect with automatically, and that you know through a simple line of dialogue who they are and what they stand for. That's a real testament to her writing skills. And this book is emblematic of what YA is. It's hope, it's positivity, it's bravery, it's progressiveness, it's challenging topics in a raw and realistic way. If you haven't read this book and you are, for some reason, not getting into it, please, 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 please read The Hate You Give. It's eye-opening, yet intimate. It's expansive, yet familial. I cannot rave enough about this book. I implore you to read it. I implore adults to read it too. This is one of those category jumping books, and I don't like saying that because I feel like you shouldn't jump categories as look down on YA, but this is that book that you should read and be like, wow, young adult books are amazing. So please read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. It's out in Australia by Walker Books. In the US, I believe it's Bloomsbury. Angie Thomas is touring the world thanks to her amazing book, and she deserves every minute of success that she's getting. Congratulations to her and her writing and her editors and everyone involved in this book. I'm so proud that it came from YA. Hit me in the comments below if you have read this book. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you loved it as much as I did. Yeah, I'd be really keen to talk about it. Obviously, with a topic like this, I ask people to be respectful, to be honest and brave if they can, but please be respectful of gender, race, society, all those kind of things like that. Hit the comments, let's talk. The Hate You Give, out now.